Mantle boosts have no cooldown, so you can spam them as quickly and as often as you want. Super glides do have a 2-second cooldown. You cannot lurch out of a mantle boost. No tap strafes, no zigzags, nada. This stays active until you touch ground again, so if you mantle boosted, you also won't be able to tap strafe with a double jump, for example, compared to super glides where all of this is possible. Mantle boosts have a very clear trail they leave behind and an audio cue that is very noticeable to enemies. Super glides have none of that, so they are clearly the stealth option. Mantle boosts have a backup behavior if you mess up the timing, where they will pull you up and automatically finish the mantle. Even if you let go of all inputs and perform the mantle boost input during the early part of the mantle grab. The jump and movement ability setting will even jump off the mantle with no other inputs involved. And if you keep holding forward, the crouch setting will make you instantly slide. So what should you set it to? If you set it to crouch, you can still perform regular super glides if your timing is precise. But you won't be able to do a mantle cancel with a crouch if you climbed into the mantle, because the mantle boost backup behavior will just pull you up through the mantle instead of cancelling it. Mantle cancels with a crouch are very important for certain mantle jumps. If you set it to jump, you can only do the new mantle boost. Super glide is no longer possible. And you won't be able to do certain mantle hops, but that's much less of a problem. So on mouse and keyboard, I highly encourage you to use the movement ability bind, since it has none of those issues. I have it on left alt. On controller, it comes down to preference. If you care about super glides, set it to crouch. But I think for most movement players the better option is to just say goodbye to super glides, which isn't a big loss since you can't tap strafe anyways, and set the activation to jump, so you can still perform mantle jumps with a crouch without worry. But no matter if you consider yourself a noob or a movement turbo god, for general forward navigation, quick escapes into cover, or to cross gaps, mantle boost will fully replace super glides. For M&K movement nerds that want to have more freedom, super glides will keep a niche purpose and allow them even crazier combos when using both, thanks to the missing cooldown of mantle boosts. I have extensive thoughts about this new mantle boost, its difficulty and implications, what I like and dislike about it, and how I would have implemented it differently. But we'll cover all of that in a different video, so follow for that. And as always, if you want to make sure that you get the most up-to-date info, visit the Apex Movement Wiki. I'll make an entry for the mantle boost in the next few days, collecting all the We have a sick new movement tech that also works really well on controller. This is what we are calling an Insta Mantle Boost, or short, Insta Boost. It lets you mantle boost off super low edges. It of course does work on mouse and keyboard, but what's so dope about it is that it also works really well on controller, because you don't need a fast turnaround. And it uses the new mantle boost, which only needs one button press instead of the really precise 2 buttons for a super glide. And that combination makes it a much easier alternative to the instant super glide or skibbity glide you might have seen around. And after playing around with Insta Boost the last couple of days, I now think it has the potential to shake things up pretty dramatically. The original version was discovered by It's Green Out. I think it would be pretty cool if you could follow them on Twitch. Here is how you do it. The first step is to do an instant mantle with a slide. Jump and keep holding jump. Sprint towards an edge and slide. And while sliding, turn around while you continue to hold forward, so your left stick, and continue to hold crouch and jump. This will make you slide backwards off the edge, but the forward and jump input will force you to mantle back up, without you having to do anything. The mantle will happen all by itself. And for this it does not matter how fast you slide off the edge, the mantle will still happen. You need to get good at this slide instant mantle before you can continue to the mantle boost. So here are some tips. The forward input will make your slide slow down and then even reverse direction. So you cannot start a slide too far away from the edge, else the speed won't be enough to make you slide backwards over the edge. But you also can't do the slide too close to the edge, else you might not have enough time to turn around, especially if you are on low sense on controller. If you make sure that you're continuing to hold forward and jump, but you're not mantling, then it's because you have not turned around enough. The mantle works up to 45 degrees to each side. But if you try to have fully turned around before you go over the edge, you are on the safer side. Which is actually what makes this method so much easier. It does not need a precisely timed and super fast turnaround, because we turn around before we even reach the edge. If you still feel like you can't turn around fast enough, you can try letting go of forward as soon as you start the slide. This will not slow down the slide, so you can start it much further away from the edge, giving you more time. But you then need to remember to add the forward input again before going over the edge. So do the variation that feels easier to you. Okay, you can do this slide mantle reliably. Next step is to time the mantle boost. For that you need to let go of the button you use for mantle boost. For me, it's crouch. And then press it again. The timing for that is a bit short, so I recommend to enable the full mantle boost UI to practice it. I had more success when I tried timing it a bit too late and then work on slightly reducing my delay, instead of constantly doing it too early cause I'm being too hectic. It really feels like there are two distinct actions. Mantle boost. Like boom boom. Not boom boom. But beyond that you just have to practice. And it's so worth it. Having an instant mantle boost that is available on controller the same way it's on mouse and keyboard is really dope. Go around and get creative. Test little ledges or rocks you run over. Realize that every platform with a more or less straight edge works. And here are some pro tips. If you want to slide after the instant boost, you need to hold forward the moment you land. You can do whatever you want mid-air and let go of forward after you initiated the slide. But on ground contact, you need to hold forward, even if you go to the side or turn around to land backwards. You can slide over edges at a very shallow angle. It's only the mantle that's restricted to 45 degrees, not the slide. And also play around with the actual 45 degrees of the mantle. This lets you turn into the direction you actually want to go. You can start holding the jump input during a lot of other movement in preparation for the insta boost, like jumping into the slide, which lets you insta boost of various objects much easier. And combining that with the very shallow approach angle even makes insta glides of thin railings surprisingly easy. But you can also start holding jump mid-air, continue holding it after a climb, or if you press it while I'm crouching, you can start holding jump without actually jumping, which also works with the slide.
Welcome to the Apex Fundamentals series. Fast, you can switch targets. And here's the
has changed in some big ways this season, so let's get right to it. Making it pretty terrible off the drop. And my biggest issue is that it is a close range LMG, which means it has a slow movement speed, which lets you be an absolute target for the fast-paced meta that we are in, with all those R99s and shotguns that are being used right now. More or less, I do think the Devotion needs a big buff to that movement or strafe speed and some other tweaks to be competitive. And ever since it had the removal of that hipfire accuracy increase when you are shooting, it has been lacking quite a bit. Now in C tier, we have the weapons that for me are more or less just fine. They're going to be usable in one mode or maybe in some circumstances, but for the most part, they are not really worth taking due to how the larger meta is playing right now. Nerfs to the bow check have hurt it quite a bit. The big thing for me is the draw speed, and it really just does not feel that good anymore to use. It went from feeling incredible to just straight up deflating. This in tandem with the fact that the game has been up quite a bit this season makes its close range viability even worse as well, and the ammo for me is still really awkward. I think something really needs to be done to arrows in general. The bow check is not as bad as a ranked gun for someone that wants a little bit more range, but it's going to pretty much lose out against everything else in the game right now when it does come to the longer range. Snipers at very long ranges, assault rifles or LMGs at mid-range, other marksmans at that mid to long range, of course. I would recommend using the bow check if you do want to still split up ammo types from your squad mates, or if you want a little bit more of a silent shooter option. Some live and die by it, but for me, it's not a weapon that I like using. The charge rifle right now just really does not feel that good in the meta as well. For pretty much everything that I just said with the bow check, it really lacks any sort of versatility in the close range if someone does push in, and since we are in such an aggressive meta right now, it's really a detriment to have the charge rifle as your backup weapon. I do think the charge sees a little bit more viability actually though, because marksmans were nerfed, but at the range that you're gonna need to be to do max damage, it's gonna be a lot harder to actually capitalize on that huge opening damage headshot that you can get. I would say the charge rifle is maybe a soft B tier legend if you are grinding ranked and you're trying to play a little bit slower with controller legends, but even then, I would still rather have some other poking weapon that is a little bit better at the close range. Next up in B tier, we start to see weapons that are pretty good, but not necessarily excellent. These weapons might be great in pubs or ranked, but not both modes due to how each game mode is played right now, which honestly is a little bit closer due to the larger dropship changes for ranked, but I digress. The Prowler is the first SMG on the list, and it is a very solid pub weapon, but it lacks a true competitive time to kill. It's pretty bad off the drop with its base round 20 mag. I would even say it's terrible. It does become much better when you finally do get a purple mag on it though. It's not going to beat many of the other close range weapons like an R99 and even 8, maybe even the P2020 Akimbos. It's going to lack the ease of use and the range of something like the Alternator, and the burst is not going to be for everyone either. The Prowler is good if you want a multi-enemy killer and you're just playing pubs where you don't need to be as competitive and you're just trying to run it down and get as many eliminations as you possibly can. Switching to something a little bit longer range, the Rampage is a fair option if you are looking for a hybrid close to mid to long range option. Unfortunately, it doesn't really excel at any one of these ranges, making it a little uncompetitive at all ranges. It's good if you want a mix of playstyles, and I think if you are playing Fuse, where you can grab a ton of thermites or really any assault character with those extra grenade spots, it's a pretty good option at this point. There's no attachments really needed on the Rampage. It has a great base mag size and a great damage per mag, low recoil. The iron sights are super clear as well. I'd grab the Rampage if you want an alternate weapon to something like a 30-30 or a triple take, where you can have that full auto and be a little bit better at the close to mid range as well. In a similar vein as the Rampage, we also have the Spitfire. Again, the Spitty does not really do anything unique beyond that 50 round mag. It doesn't have the best time to kill. It's not great at the hip fire and close ranges. And of course, it's slower in that close range strafing because it is an LMG, which again is going to make you an easier target to hit. It's poor in ranked in my eyes, but it's a decent pub weapon where if you can't make use of that big 50 round magazine, you're really just going to be able to mow over entire teams with one mag. It's kind of the pure run and gun damage farmer weapon in my eyes. If you want a more competitive mid to long range gun though, just use an R301, and if you want to be a little bit more versatile in close range, an Alternator is going to be the better choice for a low recoil, easy to use, light weapon at this range. Surprisingly to me, the Peacekeeper only gets a mid B tier placement even with the buffs to shotguns across the board this season. There's a few reasons for this, but for the most part, there are just better close range options in either usability or straight up time to kill. The Peacekeeper is still one of the best, if not the best secondary to swap to one tap someone down, which does give it some viability at all ranks of Apex, Also, it's pretty great that you really only need one stack of shotgun ammo, meaning you can't get more primary ammo, more shields, or more grenades, and just more utility in general. I think it does lack pretty heavily in the overall team fighting aspect, and if you do not finish up your fight with a one tap from the PK, you basically would be better with any of the other close range shotguns or even SMGs in the game. Also, the reduction in legends like Newcastle in favor of fast-paced legends like Octane means you have a less need to peak fight around those barriers and around those walls, and the need for flexibility in your weapon choice means you're probably going to want something like an EVA 8 or an R99, which is just going to be straight up better across the board. A true pub weapon in my eyes, and honestly a great weapon off the drop is the Wingman. Apex's most nostalgic gun. It's not really bad right now, but it's also really not that competitive in TTK at certain ranges. It's really going to require you to more or less be a perfect shot with almost no forgiveness if you do miss just one singular round. Sniper ammo, of course, can be nice at times as a nice change of pace from your squad mates, so you're not all stacking the same type of ammo. And running and gunning in pubs with an R9 makes it a little nostalgic with this thing, but beyond this, there's just not too much there in a true competitive sense when it does come to the Wingman. The next few weapons I truly flip-flopped quite a bit between B tier and A tier, so I do think that any of these could be higher depending on flatline in A tier, but I think its usability at range compared to some of the other options is slightly lacking, whereas close range TTK is also not going to beat out a lot of the other weapons that are being used in the close range, of course, because it is an assault rifle. That being said, it's a great hybrid close to mid-range beamer for something like pub runners and someone looking for a little flexibility in a backup to something like a triple take or maybe a 30-30 repeater. The biggest problem is just it's not going to be an R99 or maybe even something like a P20 Akimbo, a car SMG, and these weapons are honestly kind of like everywhere right now, which makes
breathtaking sight in the world. No matter how hard I carve.
Come on, have some more. Since we've escaped to enjoy the wine and flowers. Thinking about going.
Makes sense, but this kind of puts the gun in a weird spot. If you do run into someone with those weapons, you're gonna lack the close range TTK. If you run into someone with like a 30-30 and you're trying to chow them with a flatline, you're gonna lack that long range potential as well. The flatline is great, but it's not really excellent like it was a few years ago. Almost in the exact same thought process for me is the Bolt SMG. It's the SMG that has a decent time to kill, easy to use, meaning you have a little bit better range, but at the same time, it doesn't really beat out the other weapons that it is gonna compete with. Absolutely, the Volt is a viable weapon if you want to run it, but note that you are going to lose to the arm.
Some more. Since we've escaped to enjoy the wine and flowers, let's not keep thinking about going back.
The constable went home to visit his family, so he probably won't be back today.
line at the close range, and an alternator is way more flexible in the damage per mag, the range, and that alternator has the alternate fire mode, making it better killing in the very close ranges. I'd recommend the Volt if you want an R99-esque type of feel, but you want a little bit more controllability and maybe a little bit more forgiveness in your gameplay. And our last borderline A tier weapon for me is going to be the triple take marksman rifle. I really wanted to rank this thing higher, but the nerf to the choke speed is actually wild. The choke takes a full 2 to 3 seconds to activate to get the most accuracy out of it. This is just going to destroy your long range pressure ability compared to a longbow or even a 30-30 repeater. It's still fair in the mid range when you do connect full shots without needing the choke, but the range it works at is very specific, and you're probably at the point where you're going to start to lose out to some of the assault rifles that are being used. Energy ammo means less per stack in reserve, and I do think the triple take is a fair ranked option, which does put it into like the maybe soft A tier, but in pubs I put it more like a high C tier, low B tier, and I would look elsewhere. Don't forget to hop in my community Discord to find others to play with, or you can ask me any questions, as I am fairly active in in there as well. Now we're getting into the upper tier of weapons in A, and this here is where we're gonna really start to see some contenders in Apex Legends. For maybe the first time ever, or at least in a long time, the weapon meta this season is more level than it truly has ever been in the past, which means the difference between the B, A,
The war drums sound. It is time to march to the north.
Heaven's Door! Shatter the circle! Where it ends.
in S tier is a lot less than it has been. Lots of these guns in A can be higher or a little bit lower depending on the player, the mode, and the playstyle that you are trying to achieve. We're gonna
More wins! Both shatter, take the square! Heaven's Door! Where it Centuries unfold for one end. Our souls rage. Both square. The circle. Heaven's Door.
Gonna kick it off with the Havoc assault rifle. The Havoc in my eyes is oddly one of the best secondary or close range weapons to absolutely mow over enemies in Apex Legends. The Havoc does struggle a little bit without that turbocharger, but once you do get it unlocked, it really does become next level. The damage is great, the damage per mag is great, and the time to kill is excellent. There's not a lot of range with the Havoc, so you do need to kind of treat it like an SMG. It is harder to use as well, so it's not gonna really be for everyone, but if you are looking for a close range option with a little bit more range than say an R99 or a shotgun, this thing is definitely the real deal. What in my mind is the first real mid to long range contender in Apex Legends Season 28 is the Hemlock. It's great at all ranges due to that single shot tap firing at long range, mid range bursting, and close range hip firing. A magazine and a decent optic I would say are kind of a must, but you really don't need a barrel or a stock on it, making it fairly easy to get it kitted, and heavy ammo is fairly plentiful on the ground, and the attachments are as well. Because there's not too many heavy ammo viable weapons this season, I think the Hemlock is a great option if you're not really into how fast the Nemesis uses ammo and you want a little bit more of a traditional assault rifle feel. And the Hemlock is really not as good in pubs in my eyes, but it's really great in ranked for a lot of flexibility that it can bring. Less range than the Hemlock, but the L-Star is also a really solid alternative beamer this season. It's decent at close range hip firing, and it's also not too bad at the mid range as well. Its slower movement because of an LMG is of course an issue, which does make it hard to really excel at close range. ranges when you are going up against a lot of the other close range powerhouse weapons this season. This gun to me is more of a mouse and key weapon as well, due to the ability to just control the recoil, which I generally do not feel this way when it does come to a lot of weapons in Apex, but I think this gun is one of the exceptions. The L-Star is not the best energy gun right now, but it's a fair alternative with its unique no reload capabilities. We now have a few longer range options squarely in the middle of A tier. The first is the Sentinel, one of, if not the best long range options that you can use, at least for a ground weapon. It kind of has to be charged up though to be really competitive at that range. No attachments are really needed on the Sentinel. It's pretty much just lethal off the drop right away. It's a mini Kraber, and it feels like it's a little bit better this season due to the changes to the marksmans as well, which is a nice bonus for the Sentinel users out there. The Sentinel is definitely not a forgiving or really even easy weapon due to the bolt action, and it's not going to be the best secondary option if you do get pushed, so keep this in mind depending on how you are trying to play, and if you are getting pushed a lot, you might want to look elsewhere as well. Depending on how you want to play, the longbow is paired squarely right up with the Sentinel. Again,
Outer ring. Heaven stone. Overtook the winds. Shatter the circle. Heaven stone. Overturned. Inner circle. Heaven's sword overturned. Central. Outer ring. Heaven's sword. Walks among us. Walks among us. soul goes to praise.
Reality blurred by dreams. Is the donkey wandering in his dream? Or is he wandering the donkeys?
In today's video, we're going to be diving awesome healer, and this thing is almost essential for anyone who's trying to make their character into an awesome healer. So if you're trying to put together a healer build, this is definitely an essential martial arts weapon, and then headed over into Kai Feng. Now in order to pick this up, you're going to want to head over to the marker that you'll see just over here. There's a few fast travels that are close to it, so there's also a quest line with most of the mist. One thing you will note is that there's also a quest line within this area, so if you head just to a roundabout down at this location where you can see the little house, if you make it over to there, there'll be a little quest line that will take away most of the mist and make the area a little bit clearer and easier to traverse. Not essential, but it may be something you want to look into before you make your way over to this quest point. But even if you haven't done that, don't worry, just make your way to the right direction. You want to make your way just inside this little compound. I wouldn't worry too much, honestly there's a few guards in here but nothing chests that you're going to want to collect. Now on this point it's completely up to you, you can just make your way over there, take out the guard and then head into the house on the left. I was trying to scout out the area a bit more though, just so you can make your way and take out the guard very easily this way. Able to pick up is part of that as well for you to obtain. And then you want to take out the last three just down the bottom here. So all the way down, you're just going to jump straight down and assassinate the first guard to here. So it didn't make it look hold of. You're going to see a ladder available for you to jump on. All you got to do, back all the way. That was nice and easy. Shade umbrella. I just keep journeying, heading into the right direction. Drastic. Now, I was trying to make my way across, so pop down, assassinate him, and then just make your way inside.
If you do want a little bit more close range viability, the longbow is definitely going to be for you. The less damage per hit makes it more forgiving as well, and I think it's a better all-around rank choice due to the ability to miss shots but still apply pressure. Forgiveness is really key. The amount of ammo the longbow needs compared to the Sentinel, though, is just so-so. You are going to need a fair amount of ammo because you are going to shoot a lot more than the Sentinel sniper rifle. Headshot damage is still lethal, though, and off the drop with iron sights, it is incredible. Do not sleep on it. It's probably one of the best, honestly, only like real mid to long range choices right now after that marksman nerf. And speaking of those marksman weapons, the 30-30 repeater gets my top spot in the category, at least for the ground weapons, of course. The 30-30 repeater had nerfs and damage, but its placement is really more so like addition by subtraction. It took the bow check, the triple take, and the 57 scout getting taken out of the equation, and this does leave the 30-30 repeater as a viable option. The 30 does still have a fair amount of damage and pressure farming capabilities. It's not really going to get that quick pick like it used to, though, and I think the longbow is going to be better for that, so I would look at the longbow if you want a little bit more damage in your shot. Heavy ammo, I think, is fine with the 30-30 repeater. You're not going to rip through as fast as you would with something like a flatline, and I do think actually the dual shell hop-up being on that 30-30 repeater makes it a little bit better at having a minimal amount of downtime, meaning you can apply a more consistent amount of pressure. The 30 right now is my preferred marksman choice if I am playing ranked, and I do want to play a little bit more reserve. Our second shotgun is probably one of the best all-around weapons right now, and it is the Mastiff. The Stiffy equally brings together a solid damage per mag, fire rate, and the ability to reload one shot at a time, meaning less downtime, much like that 30-30 repeater. The pellet reduction mostly had no impact, although I think it's ever so slightly easier to get mid to higher damage numbers since each pellet is doing more now, requiring you to connect less shots from that entire spread. I personally like running the Mastiff with ammo-hungry weapons like an R301, and although the ammo conservation is not as friendly as like a Peacekeeper, it is still pretty good. I think the Mastiff is a really great choice right now for anyone looking to be a little bit more active in fights and push a little bit more due to the ability to crowd control fairly well with this shotgun. Narrowly missing out in S tier, we have two weapons. First is the Alternator SMG. The Alternator is at the top of A because it has a great time to kill, although not excellent compared to some other choices. Its ease of use, the mag size, and the damage per mag, and the ability to just put it into that alternate fire mode does make it a very well-rounded close range option. Light ammo is super easy to come by right now, and unlike Unlike, say, an R301 or an R99, you shoot a little bit slower, making your ammo last longer. I think the alternator has S tier potential if you are in the close range with that dual fire mode, but otherwise it's gonna lose out against some of those other close range options. I would take the alternator for its ease of use and the ability to build confidence with your weapons. Also, it really does shine when multiple teams are around due to the ability to keep your damage up and not just empty your mag like an R99 does. The final A tier weapon for me is the RE45 pistol. It's still a burst energy gun. I was kind of expecting it to go away this season, but this did not happen. It's been very reliable ever since it did get converted to an energy burst pistol. It's not the greatest with no mag. I would even say it's pretty bad, but even a gray or blue mag will help a little bit. I do think it actually requires a purple mag to really have S tier potential, mid to higher damage and pressure farming capabilities. It's not really going to get that quick pick like it used to though. I think the longbow is going to be better for that, so I would look at the longbow if you want a little bit more damage in your shot. Heavy ammo I think is fine with the 30-30 repeater. You're not going to rip through as fast as like flatline. And I do think actually the dual shell hop up being on that 30-30 repeater makes it a little bit better at having a minimal amount of downtime, meaning you can apply a more consistent amount of pressure. The 30 right now is my preferred marksman choice if I am playing ranked, and I do want to play a little bit more reserved. Our second shotgun is probably one of the best all-around weapons right now, and it is the Mastiff. The Sticky equally brings together a solid damage per mag fire rate and the ability to reload one shot, meaning less downtime, much like the 30-30 repeater. The pellet reduction mostly had no impact, although I think it's ever so slightly easier to get mid to higher damage numbers since each pellet is doing more now, requiring you to connect less shots from that entire spread. I personally like running the Mastiff with ammo-hungry weapons like an R301, and although the ammo conservation is not as friendly as like a Peacekeeper, it is still pretty good. I think that Mastiff is a really great choice right now for anyone looking to be a little bit more active in fights and push a little bit more due to the ability to crowd control fairly well with this shotgun. Narrowly missing out in S tier, we have two weapons. First is the Alternator SMG. The
Close up shop. Outer rim. Winter.
Alternator is at the top of A because it has a great time to kill, although not excellent compared to some other choices. Its ease of use, the mag size, and the damage per mag, and the ability to just put it into that alternate fire mode does make it a very well-rounded close range option. Light ammo is super easy to come by right now, and unlike say an R301 or an R99, you shoot a little bit slower, making your ammo last longer. I think the alternator has S tier potential if you are in the close range with that dual fire mode, but otherwise it's gonna lose out against some of those other close range options. I would take the alternator for its ease of use and the ability to build confidence with your weapons. Also, it really does shine when multiple teams are around due to the ability to keep your damage up and not just empty your mag like an R99 does. The final A tier weapon for me is the RE45 pistol. It's still a burst energy gun. I was kind of expecting it to go away this season, but this did not happen. It's been very reliable ever since it did get converted to an energy burst pistol. It's not the greatest with no mag. I would even say it's pretty bad, but even a gray or blue mag will help a little bit. And I do think it actually requires a purple mag to really have it excel at the top of the meta in Apex Legends. The time to kill is superb. The recoil control is surprisingly easy, and the range you can hit shots is also pretty surprising. The biggest drawback for the RE45 is its energy ammo hungry, and the fact that it really does require a little charge up, which means it's not going to really be for everyone. The RE is a really great secondary option if you do not want to use the light ammo R99 or the alternator as your alternative. Of close range weapons. I personally like running the RE45 with snipers and marksmen for that increase in handling of pistols, which is a nice benefit on its own, so you can't swap to, and the draw time is just a little bit quicker than some other options in Apex Legends.
Locally, with multivitamins A,
D, and E for daily energy and immunity.
So I can be at my 100% on and off the court. My daily vitamins.
Slip out of the day with Choco Mucho Milk Chocolate Rolled Wafer.
Next up, we have the best weapons in the game in S tier, and much like I said at the start of A tier, a lot of these guns are pretty great right now and fairly evenly ranked depending on how you want to play. Also, do me a huge favor, hit that like button because engagement. Thank you. Rightfully so, we start with all three of the current care package weapons, the Car, the Kraber, and the newly reintroduced G7 Scout. The Car is not actually as good as I thought it should be, but it's still one of the best all-around close range weapons that can dish out a crazy amount of damage. It's absolutely worth picking up. The Kraber continues to be that opener and the only pure one-hit weapon in the game. The Kraber is also really great to just farm damage, and if you get the infinite ammo amp, this thing is kind of busted as you can shoot without having to worry about your ammo.
A humble shrine, yet the power is divine. Who steps before the immortal? And for what cause? Leave your offering and be on your way. To seek a blessing, one must make an offering. Such is the order of things. Should your purse be empty, offer wine, or meat, or silk. Even a fine man or woman may serve as worthy tribute. If you have nothing to offer, I shall take you as tribute.
Underground!
Flowers never fade. Inner circle. Or wings.
Gotcha there!
Heaven's Stone! Over to Heaven's Stone! Square to circle! Earth to circle! Or wind thunder! Or wind!
Rolling thunder!
Overturn! Break! Shatter!
Rolling thunder!
Circle! Outer ring! Heaven's Stone! Overturn or wind! Break the square! Heaven's Stone!
Underground!
Heaven's Stone or wind! Flowers never fade. Flowers never fade. More wind! Underground! Heaven's Dome! Over to Heaven's Dome! Shatter the circle! Wind! Sentinel! Overturn! Sword never dies. More wind! Heaven's Dome! Overturn! Outer ring! More wind! Overturn Heaven's Dome! Inner circle! Overturn! Heaven's Dome! More winds! More winds! Gotcha there! Sword never dies. Outer ring.
All I wanted was the silver.
Sa inyo mang inasal at pinatodong deals. Order ka na.
Have healthy hair, skin, and nails. Biotin Wolvit helps you fight the signs of biotin deficiency.
If you guys are like me and wondering why can I not kill this mysterious boss that is hiding under the underground, well, here's his entrance. But the thing is, if you go on inside without collecting all the keys, you will die immediately because these red snakes, well, they're venomous and they like to one-shot you. In order to grab all the keys, we want to run upside the hill here, and to our left you will see a beautiful snake trying to hide us, stop us from getting one of the bone shards. After we get bone shard number 1, we want to continue going upwards along this path. Avoid the little horseman there. He is kind of evil and we don't really like him. Over here on the right, you will see another snake holding hostage to one of our beautiful chests. Here we can jump right up, quickly go behind him. And there will be a box right there. Just casually run away. Now for our final one, you want to head over to this location beside Encircling Lake. Below us there will be a chest down there. If you want, you can grab it. Over here you will then see a little rock formation. Final one, you want to head over to this location beside Encircling Lake. Below us, there'll be a chest down there. If you want, you can grab it.
Spring never ends. Earth overturned. Break the square. Heaven suffered. Intercept. Break the square. Overturn outer ring. Or win. Heaven strong. Overturn. Spring never ends.
Over here on top of this rope. Now that we can talk to him, we'll deliver him the goods, give him all our snake bones, and then he'll give us what we need to finally be able to enter the cave and prevent us from dying. You just follow the path down, and you'll be able to fight the boss. Goose. Wow, that's... okay, I'm tilted. This guy should not be this hard.
eventual cure. I don't believe it. The hero can't heal himself. I don't believe it.
Overturned! Flowers never fade. Outer ring. Winter.
结义，赴沙场，为保家国，归明帝，梦回梦啼，一生一，万尺兄弟，三色。
circle. Overturn. Or win. Square. To circle. Overturn. To circle. Heaven's dome. Heaven's dome. Sentinel. Equinox.
出个七，回头一，听见八军山论语，嘴屏地，就不急，为救无灯射身躯，行不得也，哥哥。
Spring never ends. Joy never dies. Flowers never fade. Inner circle. More winds. Overturned. Shatter. The circle. Heaven's dome. Outer ring. Overturned. More winds. Heaven's dome. Overturn Heaven's dome. More wind. Break. Where? Overturn Heaven's dome. More wind. Overturn Heaven's dome. More winds! More winds! Sentinel! Overturn! Heaven's dome! Spring never ends.
Hey everyone, apart from that, like that red glow attack. Smaller puppets appear and they try to stab you, just dodge. One counter the guy's block when the shadow circle appears, and after we can counter the guy's block when the shadow circle appears, and apart from that, when these smaller puppets appear and they try to stab you, just dodge out of them. You cannot block those. So continue the same. Block when he gets the sphere in the shadow, and dodge abilities to stab and dodge out. Okay, cool.
Joy never dies. Outer ring. Heaven's door. Overturn or win. Overturn heaven's door. Or win. Overturn heaven's door. Overturn heaven's door. Or win. Heaven's door. Centralize. Equinox. Or win. Shatter the circle. Overturn. Square. Overturn. Inner circle. Or win. Flowers never fade. Make the square. Joy never dies. Outer ring. Or win. Heaven's door. Inner circle. Overturn. Or win. Heaven's door. Shatter the circle. Overturn. Heaven's door. Or wins. Heaven's door. Overturn or win. Break the square. Overturn or win. Heaven's door. Overturn. Spring never ends. Heaven's door. Overturn. Square to circle.
心魔实在不堪生，举水行灯进来。
Spring never ends.
Control. The new care package gun, the G7 Scout, is also just incredible. Easily the best marksman and damage poker gun in the game. Throw a sniper optic on it and farm enemies at crazy ranges. Double tap is also just absurd on this thing. I do think the amount of ammo you get is actually pretty low though, so you got to keep this in mind. You're probably gonna have to swap off it if you do get it pretty early on. You may need the infinite ammo amp with this thing to have it really be
Quit the tricks. Show yourself.
Spine. Mine.
Square to circle. Overturn. Inner circle. Heaven stone. Overturn. Win. Shatter the circle. Overturn. More win. Heaven stone. Overturn! Go! Outer ring! Joy never dies! Shatter the circle! Heaven's stone! Overturn! My life for yours! Father! Spring never ends.
Allow my chi to aid you! Nice move with the blade, Father! Now it's my turn!
Central! Overturn! Heaven! Win!
Oh, it's safe for you!
More win! Overturn! Shatter the circle! Heaven's stone! Overturn!
Allow my chi to aid you!
Spring!
For you!
Shatter! Heaven's stone! Over or wins! Over heaven's stone! Overturn! Heaven's stone! Or win! Square! Overturn or win! Heaven's stone!
In my next life, I'll still walk the Yellow Hound by your side.
Spring never ends.
Be effective in the end game. The G7 in my eyes is probably the best poking weapon in the game because that double tap is again just absolutely absurd. Moving to the first regular ground weapon in S tier, we do have the P20 Akimbos. I did expect it to be much worse since it did come out of the care package for the first time in 2 seasons, but I am surprised with just how versatile the P20s feel since they are back on the ground and the total amount of damage they can simply deal out. The P20 Akimbos are easy to use, you really don't need a ton of attachments, and they are very easy to find. P20s are everywhere. The P20 Akimbo for me takes a lot of the guesswork out, as the need to decide between the close range TTK and that mid-range viability is honestly not really there because they can be used at both of these ranges. I think the P20s are a little bit being slept on right now. I'm surprised they're not getting more discussion, so if you haven't tried them out yet, definitely give them a try. They are very good. For the first time in a very long time, the R301 returns to the S tier in Apex Legends. It may not be the greatest all-around gun in the game like the G7 was on the ground last season, but it's absolutely an incredible gun right now. It works in pubs or ranked. It's gonna work as a long-range tap fire or just a straight-up spray at longer ranges. The R301 has a great hip fire at close range to destroy your enemies. It's a breeze to use, and it's the most familiar feeling assault rifle for newcomers and experienced players alike. I do think the R301 is a little ammo hungry, but it's not too bad since light ammo does get more
flowers.
The war drums sound. It is time to march to the north.
More winds. Heaven's dome. Outer ring. Wings. Earth. Overturn. Heaven's dome. Will shatter the circle. More winds. More winds. Overturn Heaven's dome. Heaven's dome. Overturn our wings! Inner circle! Overturn Heaven's dome! Shatter the circle! Our wings! Heaven's dome!
The war drums sound. It is time to march to the north.
Spring never ends. Outer ring. Wings. Shatter the circle. More winds.
The war drums sound. It is time to march to the north.
Spring never ends. Square to circle. Heaven shown. Overturn or wings. Central. Spring never ends. joy never dies. Hut!